Welcome to the web show on AmericanSportsNet.com. I'm Matt Lincoln. Today we're unveiling numbers 20 through 11 of our Super Bowl 50. As the NFL celebrates the 50th anniversary of the Super Bowl, we are counting down the 50 best NFL players from the American Sports Network conferences. We started with a list of 100 nominees and took them to experts, former players, agents, and media members to narrow the list down to the best 50. Then we let you decide the order through an online vote. Every Friday this month, we will unveil 10 of the Super Bowl 50, with the final 10 announced the week of the Super Bowl, culminating on Friday, February 5th. To watch our videos unveiling numbers 50 through 21, click below. Now, let's see the next 10. Number 20, Dan Connolly, offensive lineman from Southeast Missouri State. Helped the Patriots win Super Bowl 49, toppling the Seahawks. A four-year starter, four-time All-Conference at Southeast Missouri State. Also owns the record for the longest kickoff return by a lineman, 71 yards. Number 19, Fred Dean, defensive end from Louisiana Tech. Played 11 years in the NFL for the Chargers and the Niners. He was traded to San Francisco mid-season and became a key to their dynasty, helping them win Super Bowls 16 and 19. Number 18, Howie Long, defensive end from Villanova, the NFL Hall of Famer, 8-time Pro Bowler, 2-time Defensive Lineman of the Year, much more than just a talking head on TV. He helped the Raiders win Super Bowl 13. Number 17, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL right now, Antonio Brown from Central Michigan, 4-time Pro Bowler, 2-time NFL receptions leader. Lost Super Bowl 45 as a member of the Steelers against the Green Bay Packers. Number 16, Joe Flacco, quarterback from Delaware, the MVP of Super Bowl 47. Great line, 22 of 33, 287 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Also helped lead Baltimore to the AFC Championship game as a rookie. Number 15, Troy Brown. Bill Belichick calls him one of the best players in Patriots history. Played 15 years for New England, the wide receiver out of Marshall. Also had a huge career with Marshall, winning a championship there as well. Ray Guy is number 14, the punter from Southern Mississippi, mostly regarded as the best punter of all time, the only true punter to be in the NFL Hall of Fame, and the best collegiate punter award is named after him. That's how good he was. Number 13, James Harrison, 16 years in the NFL out of Kent State, longtime Steeler, also had some stints with the Ravens and the Bengals, 2-time Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl 40 and Super Bowl 43, also was a member of the Steelers team that lost Super Bowl 45, has the longest interception in Super Bowl history, 100 yards. Number 12, Julian Edelman, wide receiver out of Kent State. Of course, he was a quarterback at Kent State. Set the record for Kent State for passing yards and receiving yards rushing yards rather in one season, and scored the go-ahead touchdown in Super Bowl 49. And number 11, Ed Too Tall Jones, defensive end from Tennessee State. First player drafted number 1 from a historically black college. Started by playing basketball there, but just was too good at football to pass up. Spent all of his career with Dallas, a member of the Doomsday Defense. Never missed a game for Dallas and helped them win Super Bowl 12. And we're very lucky to be joined by one of the members of our Super Bowl 50, Troy Brown. Troy, 3-time Super Bowl winner. When it comes to this time of the year, what do you think back upon? What kind of memories pop up from the 5 Super Bowls that you played in?
Just all the joy and just spending time with family. You know, it's that one time a year where, you know, and I talk about this with a lot of the guys that, you know, family. You make it to the Super Bowl, you got so many fans, so much family and friends that get to make it to games, and to have everybody in one place like that and to be able to celebrate a rare moment for most people to even be playing in the game, to be able to celebrate that with so many people that you care about, man, it's just great, you know, and I think that's the part, you know, just I miss about it the most is this time of year, just being in that game and having so many loved ones around.
And before you experienced that greatness in the NFL, you won a national championship at Marshall. What did you learn from being a collegiate champion that helped you become a professional champion?
Just how important having good coaches and good teammates around you. I think that was the biggest thing. You know, I look back on the team that I had at Marshall, and just thought about how many great football players that I played with. A lot of us at 1AA at the time were undersized at the time, especially up front the offensive line, but still tremendous football players. And then the guys we had at skill positions, I felt like could play with anybody in the country on any level. So that's one of the biggest things that I learned is that in order to be a champion and to become good and great, you got to have good things around you, and that's including coaches and players.
You experienced 15 years in the NFL, all of them with the New England Patriots. You were there for a little before the Brady and the Belichick era, and then through much of the Brady and Belichick era. What did you see was a big difference? What do you think changed in that culture of the team when those guys came around?
Well, I think, first of all, the culture, I think, kind of started with Bill Parcells in 1993 when he drafted myself and Drew Bledsoe his first year in New England. So the Parcells kind of had that Belichick mentality anyway, you know, so and it changed then. We went through a little bit of a change with Pete Carroll, who knew how to win in his own way, but he just didn't rule over it with the, you know, like the way Parcells or Belichick would, you know, and demand that kind of respect from his players. I think Pete put too much on the players to police themselves when we were very young. But, you know, this is the way that Tom and Bill have been able to master this thing for the last, 15, 16 years since they've been together. It has been an incredible run. And I think one of the things that you can't take away from those guys is that any team, a matter of fact, is continuity. And Tom didn't have to worry about changing coaches and, you know, trying to figure out different coaching styles or coaches coming in, putting in new game plans. And Bill didn't have to worry about trying to find another quarterback and trying to get that quarterback acclimated to a new system. So I just, the longevity these two guys have together, they know each other, you know, inside and out. And I think Tom probably knows what Bill is thinking all the time. Bill knows what Tom is thinking all the time and what it's going to take to create winners. And I just think the continuity that these two have is just unmatched. You know, it's uncommon to see player coach play together and coach together for this long.
I want to rewind back to that magical 2001 season. What did, living through it, you know, with when Drew Bledsoe went down, someone that you were very close to, had a great rapport with, then you were building this rapport with Tom Brady. A very controversial time when Coach Belichick decided to stick with Brady and not go back to Bledsoe for the final stretch run. What was going on inside the locker room? What did the players believe was the right decision?
The players just believe the right decision is whatever decision the coach made. And you see that same mentality to this day inside of that New England Patriots locker room, you know, and there's not a whole lot of controversy about anything, you know, and so the players are just rolling with it because, I mean, it's kind of hard to take a quarterback out of a system or a lineup where the team is on a win streak, you know, and that's a difficult thing to ask a coach to be able to do, is go in and say, oh, you got your job back, you know, and when the team's, you know, really was 7-0, I think, by the time he was ready to return under Tom Brady. So, and the players respected that. They really didn't get involved in it with it a whole lot. And I tell you that the person that really stood out the most was Drew Bledsoe, because he didn't make a big fuss about it in the locker room. He didn't make a big fuss about it to the press. You know, whatever his feelings were towards the situation, and he and Bill worked that out between themselves. And then after the season was over, obviously he was traded to Buffalo. So it wasn't, you know, he handled the situation with so much class and so much dignity that, you know, I'd sit there and have to watch another young man take your job and then be successful at doing it and win a Super Bowl and not wreck our locker room. I thought he needed to be commended for that. And it was a great show of sportsmanship and showing what being a man is all about, you know, and he handled his business the way he had to handle it and didn't create a distraction for the rest of us in the locker room to have to answer questions to the media about. And, you know, that's the way it was. So there really wasn't a whole lot of what you think of what this player thought, talking about it in the locker room. We respected the situation, respected Drew, respected Tom, and we went out and just played football.
Most coaches are put in one of either two categories. They're either players coaches or they're disciplinarians. Coach Belichick doesn't seem to really fit on either side of that ledger. We only get to see sort of one side of Coach Belichick in those press conferences. What is the other side?
The other side is that Belichick he's actually a fun guy. He likes to have fun. He likes doing fun things, you know, and a lot of the times you're the head coach. You get put in situations where you can't become really close to players because, you know, eventually you're going to have to cut a player, release a player, trade a player, or whatever it may be, you know. And I think over the years, players have grown to kind of expect those things and understand those things. You still have a few players that don't get it as far as that's concerned. But, you know, we had Randy Moss that asked Belichick to come to a Halloween party. And he said, okay, I'll be there. And he showed up dressed up as a pirate, you know. A lot of people didn't know that he had that side to him. But, you know, he's always been a jokester. He likes for guys to get on him and tease him about certain things and crack jokes on him about certain things. You know, so he's with that. He understands all that, you know. And some people think that he's just mean and hard because of the scowl on his face all the time. That's just the face he puts on for the media. So he's really a fun-loving guy that likes to get out and have fun and crack jokes as well. So I know you guys don't see that, but he really is.
As one of the best receivers in Patriots history, did you think it was a joke when Coach Belichick asked you to play defensive back?
Well, kind of at first. You know, he sent Eric Mangini into the locker room with the defensive game plan to get me ready for practice, which I had 15 minutes to get ready for that. But, you know, it was one of those things where, like, you know, you got to be kidding me right now. But, you know, they were serious. And to their credit, you know, it ended up paying off for us as we lost a couple of defensive backs throughout the course of that season. And then I was forced into action. So it paid off for us, you know, that we were able to have a guy in that could step in and take some of those reps when we were kind of low on bodies. But, you know, so it really, you know, the answer to the question, yeah, I thought he was joking at first when they came in and said that.
Troy Brown, the national champion at Marshall, three-time Super Bowl champion, and Coach Belichick has called him one of the best Patriots of all time. Troy, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, I want to say, tell everybody, too, to go out and get my new book. It's called Patriot Pride, My Life in the New England Dynasty.
And now to break down numbers 20 through 11 on our Super Bowl 50, we are joined by ProFootballGuru.com's Russell Baxter. Russell, we just spoke with Troy Brown. He shows up on this list. What kind of a special player was Troy in his ability to do so many different things for the New England Patriots?
Well, there's the key right there is the versatility. He did I shouldn't say he did a little bit of everything. He did a lot of everything. And in this day and age of a shortened draft, and he was in a shortened draft, if you remember, he was an 8th round pick out of Marshall in 1993. Well, the 8th round doesn't exist anymore. Now it's 7 rounds. So he was a jack of all trades, or I should say a Troy of all trades, eventually lining up on defense as well. So when you have a player like that, can do so many different things on special teams, on offense, and be that unselfish, part of championship teams.
A controversial member of this list only because it's very controversial about how we should talk about punters in the history of the NFL. Ray Guy shows up number 15. Few people will debate that he's the best punter of all time, but where does he belong on a list of the best football players of all time?
Well, listen, anybody who played with the Oakland Raiders back then know the contributions he had. He waited far, far too long to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You know, he changed that. He was a punter drafted in the 1st round. He was an excellent athlete. He could have done so many other things as well. Listen, if you're gonna knock punters and kickers, then you better start change the name of the game. Then it's football, isn't it? It's not, you know, arm ball.
Right, of course. Hey, and he's the best ever at a position. He deserves to be high up there.
He has awards named after him.
Right. Best collegiate punter.
So
sure.
Listen, it's great that he is on this list. That's because he probably had an easier time making this list than he did getting into Canton.
I think that's probably true. And this is voted on by our viewers on AmericanSportsNet.com. So the people like him. If the people like him, then we like him too. Speaking of which, a couple of active receivers show up between number 20 and number 11. Antonio Brown and Julian Edelman, two guys who may still very well have plenty of great years in the NFL left. Why do they belong on this list here?
Well, the production, you can't overlook it, you know, and I think we found out just how valuable, Matt, that Julian Edelman was to the New England Patriots this year when he wasn't around. Their offense seemed to stall. He has adopted the Wes Welker role and done very well. He helps move the chains. He helps open things up a little. Although, you know, Rob Gronkowski just runs over things. Julian Edelman just makes those important catches. Antonio Brown, I mean, my goodness, what a story. A former 6th-round pick by the Pittsburgh Steelers, who how's this for perspective? We're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers, a franchise that's been around since 1933 when it was known as the Pirates. In 2014, Antonio Brown caught up 129 balls. He was the first Steelers player in history to lead the league in receptions. Now think about that with the Lynn Swans and the John Stallworths who are in the Hall of Fame. So what did he do this past season? He actually caught more. He had 136 and he tied for the NFL lead with Julio Jones. Antonio Brown, as dangerous as a receiver as I've ever seen. You know, this year alone, he had a 16-catch game and a 17-catch game, and he caught 136 passes with 3 different quarterbacks.
Incredible. As much as I like to talk about these these current players, when you look back at some of the history of the NFL, you get guys that have stories that are kind of hard to believe, and they are these larger-than-life type characters, and one of those larger-than-life type characters was Ed Too Tall Jones. From all the different stories, from him being too tall to find pants, to becoming a boxer for a year, where is his role in the history of the NFL?
Well, because he had that little bit of absence where he decided to pursue boxing, and I'm old enough to actually remember seeing his fight. It was one of those CBS specials, let's put it this way, he was a far greater football player, part of that doomsday defense with the Dallas Cowboys, with Jethro Pugh and Harvey Martin and Randy White. You know, Martin and White were the co-MVPs of Super Bowl 12. He was also, as people may or may not forget, the first overall pick in the 1974 NFL draft. 6'9", 41 years ago. I mean, what's that translate to now? I mean, he was bigger than life. And that wingspan, the ability to bat balls down. He put, if you remember the Super Bowl against the Denver Broncos, Super Bowl 12, he put some licks on the quarterback that I don't think any of them forgot for an awful long time. He was a unique kind of talent. And again, from the school that he came from, to be the first overall pick in the draft is pretty impressive.
And Joe Flacco shows up on this list. He's a quarterback in the age of quarterbacks. He's been overshadowed by the Mannings, by Tom Brady, by Ben Roethlisberger, by Drew Brees, but he is a Super Bowl champion and a Super Bowl MVP. He still has some time left to write his career and write more of his legend, but how do you think history will look back on Joe Flacco?
Listen, up until this year, he had never missed a game. Not a regular season game, not a postseason game, obviously. Hurt against the Rams and missed some time at the end of the year. Unfortunately, it was a kind of a forgettable year for the Ravens. I think what people will remember the most is, for lack of a better word, Matt, he gambled and he won. Going into the 2012 season, with a contract that was getting ready to expire, he's basically playing for all the marbles, and he wound up winning all the marbles. He had that postseason run where he threw 11 touchdown passes and no interceptions. The Baltimore Ravens won at Denver. They won at Foxborough. They beat the 49ers at the Superdome, at least when the lights were on. And he walked away with everything, and they walked away with a new contract. They're in a semi-rebuilding mode right now, and unfortunately, he was one of many Ravens that got hurt. But I think people remember Flacco for his perseverance. Again, missed time for the first time this year. It's the first time John Harbaugh had to play without his quarterback, Joe Flacco. As you'll remember, they both came to Baltimore the same year.
Russell Baxter from ProFootballGuru.com. We only have 10 left. We'll watch him next week, okay?
You got it.
All right, thank you so much for joining us, Russell. And make sure you stay tuned next week as we will unveil numbers 10 through 1 on our Super Poll 50, breaking down the top 50 players of the American Sports Network conferences. Thanks for watching.